In the prior video, we took a look at how to bring things into the organizer, and now we are ready to edit. Let's go back to the organizer quickly and just bring in a couple more photos. And so I'm just using my control key to bring in some photos. And then that control I to bring them back into the editor. So what I'd like to have you take a look at right now are some of the selection tools and what you can do with the selection tools. One of the first things that you're going to note about Photoshop is the quicker and the better you are with selecting items, the faster you'll be able to do some cool things. So let's take a look at our toolbar. This is the grabber hand that moves things around. This is our eyedropper tool or color picker. It will bring a color in. And then these next four are selection tools. We have a rectangular selection tool, and you'll notice that it has an embedded tool because it has a little dark right hand corner. So we can switch that to the elliptical marquee tool, and it selects things. The lasso tool, which can be held down and got the polygonal, or the magnetic lasso tool, again selects things. This is the magic wand tool, which also selects things, and then the magic selection brush, or the quick selection tool, which is what it's called now. And this quickly selects items as well. So let's just take a look at what I mean by selecting things. Let's get the rectangular marquee, and I'll just highlight around. If I want a perfect circle, I'm going to hold that shift key while I'm dragging. So I'm just clicking and dragging. I let go when I have it the way I like it. And you'll notice that I have this selected. I can hit the backspace, and you'll notice it deletes and puts in my background color in this case. I could dump a different color on top of there. I could do all kinds of things with whatever I have selected, and that's the purpose for selecting. You'll notice I could do a Control Z or Edit to undo these things, but underneath my window I can bring up my undo history, and this is really a cool tool in Photoshop. I can go clear back to the beginning no matter how many things I have here by just double clicking. Or if I've done a few steps in a row and I want to get back to a prior step, I can do that. So I'm clear back to my beginning and looking at it that way. Let's say that I want to knock the background out of this and just get the people in here. I could use this quick selection tool. And you'll notice that I have a plus and a minus. Okay, plus means the things that I want to keep, and a minus are the things I want to delete. Well, I want to delete this background, so I'm just going to start drawing around the background. I am getting a few of the people, but I'll deal with that a little bit later. And now I'm going to get to the plus because I want to keep this kid's head, for example, and maybe this kid. Whoops, this is going backwards on me. And I'm just going to start drawing around them until I have everybody selected. Now, if I'm starting to get too much or not quite enough, notice that I can adjust what's called the tolerance level here, the brush picker, and make it a bigger brush size or a smaller brush size until I have just the people that I want. And again, I just have to remind you that this all takes a lot of practice. It's not something that is just going to be super easy on your first try. So I've been using Photoshop for quite a while now, and I'm familiar with these tools. And even right now, it would still take me a little time to make sure that everything about this one were perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to, in this case, I'm going to select the inverse because I want the inverse of this. And, oops, Control Z, I'm sorry. In this case, I guess I do not want the inverse. Inverse it the other direction. And hit the backspace, and you would see that hit the escape key to make the marching ants go away. And now I have that background gone and a solid background on my people. If I wanted to do, let's say, a gradient, I could pick my two colors for my gradient. Let's do something wild just to do it. It's going to go from green to blue. And there we have a really wild background. But again, those selection tools are really important. Let's take a look at another selection tool. Notice again, I could do the Control Z over and over, or I can just come right up here to my undo history and go right back to the beginning. How cool is that? Okay, my magic wand tool will pick up within a tolerance level. And if I click on the background, it's going to start selecting things. I can hold my Shift key down and it will continue to select. And if I hold my Alt key down, it will minus some things like this kid's head. I don't want that selected. I need his hair, and I would have to adjust this tolerance level and work on it that way until I had everything that I wanted selected, and then I could hit the backspace key again and it would throw a different background in there. Let's see, let's go back to the beginning again and notice my lasso tool. The lasso tool is, I guess, just a random selection. You have to be very steady with your hand. Maybe you have a bamboo tablet or something that would enable you to work a little bit better than what I'm doing. I would take forever right now if I were doing this very accurately. In this case, I would have to select the inverse and hit the backspace, hit the escape to make those marching ants go away. And I have my selection done this way. Let me just talk a little bit about this selection before I hit the delete. If I wanted to do kind of a random thing that was a little more artistic, I could feather those edges so I didn't have a harsh edge. Let's feather that 10. And look what happens now when I hit the backspace. I have a little softer edge, and I could even go a little bit more on that one. Let me hit the Control Z a few times. I'm going to come up here to do the feather and maybe even do 35 on a feather. And hit that backspace. And I think you'll see the feathering effect a little bit better. That looks kind of cool. That way, if you don't quite get the lasso done perfectly, it'll still work out well. I hope that helped you introduce you to these 4 selection tools and how they can be used to select items in Photoshop, because really everything that you do, you need to select certain areas so that you can work with them.